of the Slick Pro, okay? And generally you go according to temperature, what the conditions you forecast will be for that.
Yeah, and the most common one is our 20, which is the blue. It works from 12 to 28 degrees Fahrenheit, which is the most common temperature that people ski in.
Right.
And so we sell this 2 to 1 over anything else. So what I would do is take and rub on a layer of wax and just get the ski coated nice and even.
And you don't.
And here a thin layer works a
You're
little
going
easier.
tail to tip.
When you're rubbing this in and when you're corking this out, then I don't go tip to tail. I just cork it in because all you're doing is generating some heat with it. And it works best if you let it set for a couple of minutes until it sets up. It corks in a lot easier.
What about heat? Would you add a hair dryer and try to heat it in at all?
No, I wouldn't. This then becomes your iron right here.
Okay.
So what you do is cork it in and you just start working it. And the faster you work it, the harder to work it, the more heat you'll generate. And I cork it in back and forth. And what I prefer to do always on this is use a thin layer and use a couple thin layers rather than one thick layer because it's just easier to manage. And that's true in anything you're doing, kick wax, everything. Once I have it corked like that, I take a horsehair brush or a nylon, either one, and I just brush it out, and you're ready to go. And that ski's ready to ski on.
So my daughter, who just got those skis, could pretty much do this herself.
Correct.
Without wrecking the base.
And
You don't need any heat, you don't need any irons, no hair dryers. You just strictly do it, and you use your cork to generate the heat.
how long will that wax last?
20 to 25 feet.
Great.
And that's somewhat dependent on the conditions. If you're skiing in some nice soft new snow, it's 20 to 25 K. If it's refroze, it's ground up very abrasive, you're into that 10, 15 K range.
Right.
So, as a salesperson, I could reassure someone this is a great way to keep a ski nice and fast without wrecking the base or without the possibility of wrecking the base. But eventually, they're going to want to do another hot wax at least once a year.
I would say it depends on how much they ski. If they're on a team where they're skiing every day, about once a month or every couple to 3 weeks. If they're just a recreational skier, they could go all year on it. And again, it depends on how much they ski.
And with the Race Pro, you can do the application as well the same way without, and then so with the Slick Pro and the Race Pro, you can, if you wanted to, use the iron and base saver, but you don't have to.
You don't have to.
Okay, then Dad comes back and says, well, my daughter wants to go a little faster. What's the next step of making this ski faster?
The next step that you can do is to go to our Race Pro, which is a fluoro top coat in a paste. And this is one where you can either, if it's a high school race where you're going 5K, you can rub it in the same way. If you're a citizen racer where you're going to go out there 10 to 15, 25, or 50 kilometers, then you're going to want to iron it in. And I can demo both of them.
Okay.
The one thing that we do use if you're going to iron it in is to use our base saver.
Yep.
And that protects the ski from the iron. If you're ironing in a melt-in wax, the wax is an insulator so that you can put a layer of wax on and that holds the iron away from the base. If you're putting on a fluoro top coat of any time, you don't have that insulating value there. So then what we have is our fast wax base saver, and they're designed to put on the fluoro top coats. And what this works on the principle is if you just try to iron it in, you're just burning it in and you're just scorching the surface. What this works on is the basics of chemistry where you use heat and pressure. So if you use pressure, then you can reduce the amount of heat that you have on the ski. And this also softens in and presses that top coat into the ski. So I put it on the ski, I hold the tail of it up with one finger, and then I press down with both hands, just like you're structuring a ski. And I just watch to see that I'm melting it in behind that iron.
So you're looking for a tail.
Yep, just looking for a little bit of tail of molten wax coming behind it.
And then again, you just put a thin coat of that
Yep.
Slick Pro on there.
Yep.
Oh, you're on the Race Pro now, right?
Right.
Right. And would you, in a perfect world, wait 5 minutes for
Yeah.
it to
Set up.
Set.
With this, if you're going to iron it in, it isn't really necessary.
right?
But I watch the speed of the iron just by pulling this inch or two of molten shiny wax in behind it. And then I let the ski cool down to room temperature.
So just one pass.
Yep. With
Would
the-
it hurt to do more than one pass? If you were like, I'm not sure if it really got in there. Or
Yeah, if you see a gap or so, then you can go back over, but go through it a little faster
Okay.
pace the second time when you go over it. And that's true of any of the fluoro top coats that you work with.
Mhm.
Generally, one pass down the ski at that steady pace works really well.
So okay, we've got the Race Pro cold. We use the insulating blanket application, and now it's cooled off. Do we have to scrape it with a plastic scraper?
So then what I would do is just brush it out with a horsehair brush.
Not the steel.
No, if you put a thick layer on, you could go over it with a steel one layer, but generally the horsehair brush with a couple passes will work really well.
So on all your hot waxes, you'd start out with steel, then go to horsehair. But on your Slick Pro and Race Pro,
Yeah.
skip the steel.
And then I would polish with a nylon brush. And when I polish, you can go one direction this way, but you're polishing the top of the ski, so I kind of like to just go back and forth and shine it up.
So you went with the horsehair, and now you're with the black nylon brush.
Yep.
Looks like the brush is moving faster and faster on top of the ski.
Yeah, you're polishing it. And the idea with the stiff nylon brush is if you get any little hairies or anything on top of your ski, that polishes those off of there.
Mm.
And that's why it's also important to work tip to tail with your ironing, because that keeps those hairies going in that direction.
Right.
So then your skis are fast. Now you're set to ready, go race.
Is there, if I'm doing a 30K race, but I just don't want to invest in an iron, could I go 2 coats of Slick
Yeah.
with a Race Pro on top, and
Yeah.
that would actually add distance? So
Then
multiple
I would
layers is
I'd put multiple layers in and buff it out in between these thin layers.
Mhm.
And that'll give you that added durability.
okay.
So even with the Race Pro, you don't necessarily have to iron it. But if you didn't have the iron, you might want to do multiple applications.
Yes.
All right, now what can I put on this ski to make it go even faster?
Then you can go with our Flight Pure Floral product.
Is that the powder?
Yeah, if we put it in a block form, I can demo that also.
That would be great.
I believe I have. Get through some in there.
Do you like using the block over the powder?
Yeah.
I've found that when I use powders and then you start, you just have a lot falling off on the sides.
Right. It's just a lot easier to work with. Now we sell this in a single application in a 5-gram tube, and you got to sprinkle it out and funnel it on there. Again, what I find I do, even if I'm using a powder, then is I use thin layers and use several layers of it. It's just easier to work with. And on
That's a pretty good idea.
this one, you go down the ski, and I rub it on till you've got a coating over the top of the ski, and you can see where it's kind of a dull coating. And then you can do this with powders also and just put a little thinner layer. And the easiest way to do this then is I take my speed block and I buff that in.
Now, is that a high carbon only speed block, or does it matter it had the old stuff on it?
If you're particular to it, I would have this designated for your pure florals,
Okay.
and I'd have a brush designated for your pure
Yep.
florals. And then what you want to do is, what I'm doing is pushing this forward, then I tip the block up and I grab that roll and I pull it back. That way I get it spread out uniformly on the ski, and I'm just buffing it in real lightly.
I wonder how you got that like that.
He gobbles it up with
It's like Pac-Man.
No, Hungry Hippo.
Yeah,
I'm showing my age.
yeah. Yeah, I
They still
remember
have
I
Pac-Man.
sit
I
and
don't know.
watching a guy, I don't remember where it was exactly, he was playing Pac-Man, he was about 60 years old, he was really great. I go, what a waste. The hours that he spent. And what I do here is if I'm doing a particularly long race, it's easier to work with thin layers, so what I do, if I want to add more to it, I'll do it in thin layers and cork it in each time.
Before you even did the thermal
Yeah.
pad
So
or
if I'm going to do
anything.
multiple layers, this is the way I do it, and I add a little bit more to it. And then I cork it in the same way. And so if you're using powders and sprinkle them on, you can do the same thing. And I do it the same way here.
Are you applying a lot of downward pressure, or just
No, just a little bit. All I want to do is get it spread out and
Okay,
pushed
so
into the ski just a little bit.
So when you put the base saver on it,
Yeah.
it stays put.
Yeah.
okay.
Plus, if somebody bumps the bench and you're halfway through, you don't lose at all.
So if you were doing the 50K Noki, how many coats of this?
I'd probably do it 3. I'd do 3 real light coats like I showed you there. Then I put the base saver on.
And what's the temperature of that iron?
That I'm not sure, because this is not a
I can tell you, but
where I'm
Just
at.
right.
I think you can see it.
yeah, it's at 120, 110, 120.
110,
Celsius.
what's your optimal temperature?
I'd go up just a little bit on it, up to about 135.
135 Celsius?
Yep.
Okay.
And every iron's a little bit different, so.
So you still just want to see that nice little stream.
Yep. And then I press down on it. And it's that same thing I'm looking for, is that just little molten spot behind it.
What about all that smoke you're breathing?
Yeah, and usually you want to have a ventilated area here. So you pull that away.
You have a mask.
Or you just want to make sure that somebody's breathing that's old.
Yeah.
So you don't look, I mean, I know you're putting pressure, but you're not like just forcing it down.
He's putting
Oh,
a
yeah,
lot
I
of
am.
pressure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, he
Oh,
is.
yeah.
Yeah.
He's putting half his body weight on it.
Yeah. I'd put a little more, but the handle's bending on the iron.
I know, I have a problem with that iron.
Yeah. And I always prefer to have a digital iron, so then you know exactly where it's set and exactly what you're
Yeah.
doing.
All right, now about this stuff in here, does that mean that you're going to go back over it? Doesn't it matter?
What I'm going to do is take my cork and I'm going to pull that out of there. So I utilize all of it. And then I'll cork it in. So I make sure I've got it all. Take advantage. And the ski's still warm, I can cork that stuff in. And then I'll just let the ski set and cool down to room temperature. And then I brush it out with a horsehair brush, polish it with a nylon.
now if you're doing 2 layers, you would still horsehair,
Yep.
and then second layer. Horsehair.
I thought he already did the 2 layers.
I did the 2 layers. This is I'm done. When I
Oh,
do
yeah,
it,
yeah,
I
that's
don't.
right, sorry.
I don't. If you let it
Oh, right,
cool,
so
you'll
you don't
see you
horsehair
get a lot.
between the two.
Yeah.
Right.
You get a lot out
You
of there,
just
and then
squirt.
Yeah.
I polish it with the nylon brush.
You should be vacuuming your brushes. There's a lot of what you saw come out was debris that
Yeah,
was
I generally,
in
the brush has been used, and so what I generally will do is I'll vacuum my brushes to clean them before I do that final brush so that you know that's what you're getting out of it.
That's
'Cause a lot of times, what you see coming
Yeah.
out is just,
Sometimes, yeah,
Dust is in
it's
the
really
brush.
dirty. You're all like putting more wax on the ski.
so I have a small vacuum cleaner and I vacuum them out on a regular basis.
It's a good idea.
Put it on my list.
Yeah, another
that
thing,
skis ready to race
many
on.
fun things to do in your spare
Get a
time.
third vacuum in this.
Vacuum the brushes. All right, so now I'm ready to ski any race I want,
What do you
anywhere.
wanna do?
Great.
3 things make a ski go fast, actually 4 things. But 3 things make a ski go fast. Your ski flex is very important. Your structure on the ski is very important, which is this texture in the base, and your wax. And to me, they're a third, a third, and a third, because you gotta have the right wax, the right flex, and the right ski. And then the 4th thing is what clips into the binding.
The skier.
Very important.
Cool.
So skiing is a real technique-driven sport. If you haven't taken lessons, it's really good to take lessons. You learn to ski more efficiently and have more fun. Even if you're just a recreational skier, it's all about striding and gliding. And if you don't glide, it's just a lot of work. But if you learn to glide, it's a lot of fun.
Perfect.
So, taking a training class for lessons is really fun.
We have 4 PSI instructors here, and we back that up every time. What other high school recommendations can you make to me, the high school dad, buying skis for their kid?
They'll own their first pair of skis the rest of their life, so get them a nice pair of junior skis, and they kind of bond with them, and they'll have them forever. But just make sure they get out and they ski a lot on them. That's the one way they ski every day. They're quick, agile bodies, and they learn to ski really well, really quick.
Great. Cool. Well, thank you very much, Dan.